A very fine afternoon to all of you. Thank you so much for joining in. My name is Digvijay, and I'll be your host for this event. Welcome to the 19th React and React Native remote meetup. Uh, of course, I want to begin by saying that we are in very trying times right now, and I want to thank you for taking out the time and joining in to listen to us and be a part of this extravaganza of the tech that we all love and work with. Uh, of course, times are tough, and the pandemic is not just letting up, but of course, hope is what gets it to the other end. So be hopeful. We are all in this together, and we'll get through this together. But today we are here to talk about all things React, the technology that we have all come to love and uh, work in so much and build so many beautiful things. And of course, all of us are trying to change the world with it, and we might, and we will. So thank you again to all the viewers on YouTube who have joined us right now. Without further ado, I think it's time to go get on with the show. Uh, I want to first of all introduce Shankadeep Roy. He is going to be delivering the keynote for the day. Do we have him here?
Hey, Digvijay.
Hi, Shankadeep. Very good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon to you too. I see that you
How?
have a very good taste in t-shirts.
Oh yes, we are almost we're twinning right now.
Yeah, I see.
I hope you and your family are keeping safe.
Yes, we have a COVID case in our home right now as we speak. So
Oh, that must
we
be
are good,
difficult.
but yeah.
Well, I
Yeah,
hope
yeah, but
it's not as
it's
bad as it can
not
be.
too bad. Not too bad. Yeah, not too
Well,
bad.
that's good to hear. That's good to hear. I mean, we're all trying to be as good as we can be, right?
Yeah, yeah, Digvijay. Hope you are doing well
So
too.
I am. Thank you so much. So Shankadeep is a developer and an engineering manager here at GeekyAnts. He loves football quite a lot, and of course, I'll let him tell you everything else about him. So Shankadeep, I leave the stage to you. Take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Digvijay. Thank you, Digvijay, and thank you to the team for organizing this. This, of course, is not ideal, as in we would rather do it in person, but it's not possible right now, as we all know. But yeah, like Digvijay said, I'm a developer here in GeekyAnts, and I've been here for quite a while now. So I'd like to share a couple of things about GeekyAnts in general as to what we do, what we have been doing so far. So we like to call ourselves a product studio. The product studio, we mean we build our own products and we also do consultancy for other organizations, as in we build apps for them, we build designs, we give them solutions, ranging from backend to front end and design and all that you can ask for in a software. So that is a part of what we do. So I would like to, like, every day, whenever as in every time when I speak in meetups, I usually go about what we are and what, like, how we came into being, how our journey started. Today I'd like to take a different path and like talk about the open source projects that we have done. So like open source is at the core of GeekyAnts. Even like right from the beginning we have stressed on open source a lot. And the way we do open source is that we first try to solve a problem for ourselves, and then when we are say when we look at something, when we fix a problem, we see, okay, this is something that solves the thing for us, that this is something that's useful for us. Then we put it on GitHub and invite everyone else to like come and have a go at it and see if that solves their problem as well. So I have a list of open source libraries or projects that I would like to, like, it'll be there in the description, but I would just like to read them out so that you guys are aware, everyone is aware of what we have been up to lately. The one thing that we have is sync state. What it does is basically, like the name says, it syncs your state. So that's a state management library. I know we have lots of them, but this one we worked on right before Recoil came out, and this is very similar in usage and in philosophy to Recoil. So you might want to try that out. Up next, we have React Native Aria. React Native Aria is something that we developed in, let's say, developed together with Adobe. As in, we have a developer in Adobe who was doing React Aria, and then we have a team here who worked with them to get React Native Aria up and running. So that's for accessibility across all platforms, Android, iOS, and web. that is being used in one of our major open source projects, which is React Native. Sorry, Native Base. Native Base. So we have been working on Native Base for quite a while now. We started, I think it was 2016 when React Native started V1, V2. Now finally we are working on V3, which is the latest and greatest version of it. So yeah, it has accessibility, like I just said, and it has everything. Like it, we looked at all the major design systems out there. We looked at Tailwind, we looked at Chakra, we looked at Material UI, React Native Elements, and then we saw that okay, what can we do that would be on at par with those libraries, if not better. So that's where a lot of our effort has been focused to of late. So I think the alpha is already out. We'll have the link in the description if you want to check that out. That's there. Then we have Formesty. Formesty is, I would say, if you're using React or React Native, you must be aware that handling forms is very difficult. It's not easy. Two or three field forms are fine. Once it gets big and you have multiple fields, stepper forms, conditional inputs, and all. So we looked at React Hook Form and Formic, which are two of the major libraries out there for forms, and then we took inspiration from both of them, and then we have come up with Formesty, which we believe like is like it. This is solving our problem. Like we are using Formesty in a lot of our projects as of now. So yeah, it runs on MobX-State-Tree. So if you are a fan of MobX or MST, then you would love Formesty. So that is there. So yeah, I think that would be the list of, there are a couple more, but I can't remember them on the top of my head. But yeah, that is what we have had. So other than that, I would also like to thank everyone for being a part of this community. I think we recently hit 1K followers on Twitter. I'm not sure if I get the number right, but I'm guessing we have recently hit 1K. So that is a very, I would say, we're very happy. As in, thank you to all of us, all of you, and everyone else for being a part of it, attending meetups now that we are not able to attend meetups in person. Thank you all for tuning in, posting your comments. It helps all the questions and all. So yeah, that's it. We also have a Flutter meetup group. So I am sure you must be aware of that as well. There are also a lot of followers over there as well. So we also have meetups where we do combined meetups, Flutter and React Native. This right now is a React and React Native, but we have Flutter and React Native. We also do Angular meetups. So keep an eye on our social handles. You'll be, excuse me, you'll be kept updated with all our meetups and workshops that we conduct. So yeah, that was me. We have a lot of great talks coming up. I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. So yeah, I think that would be it from me, Digvijay.
Hi again, Shankar. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Thanks, Digvijay. Thank you.
So, of course, Shankar, I'd love to see you towards the end of the event. So I'll see you in a while
Sure,
here.
sure. Yeah. I'll drop off, Digvijay. All the best. Thank you,
Wonderful.
everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Shankadeep. He was talking about the kind of open source projects that we have done so far at GeekyAnts and what this entire meetup and our meetup groups are all about. Like always, I can assure you that we have some amazing talks lined up for you today. The next 1.5 hours is going to be amazing, and we sincerely hope that you take something away from it and learn something new, which is to basically the end goal of us doing this in the first place. Of course, while you're at it, do not forget to post your questions in the comments box and for our speakers, and we'll get them answered for you. Uh, since you're live here, do remember to tweet and let the world know what we are doing and have them join us as well. Tweet using the hashtag RNBlr and tag @RNBlr to your tweets as well, and let's let the world know what's going on here. So I think we should officially now begin. Let me introduce the first speaker of the day. The first speaker of the day is Vilva Athiban PB, and he's going to be talking about reusable animations in React and React Native. Let's have Vilva with us.
Hey, thank you for having me, Digvijay. It's good to be here.
Hi, Vilva. So good to have you. It's all a pleasure. You are in Berlin right now?
Yeah, I'm in Berlin.
Geez, must be late.
It's early. It's 8:30 in the morning.
It's 8:30 in the morning. Oh, okay. It's not that far away then.
Yeah, with daylight saving it is, but now it's okay. Like now these months are okay. Until October, it's only 3 p.m.
Well, I guess we've caught you at a good time then.
Yeah.
Anyway, so as a short introduction, Vilva is a full stack JavaScript developer, and he is currently working in Berlin. Uh, Apart from his coding, the expertise that he holds in coding and things that he likes to do and the things that he likes to build, he has a few other indulgences as well. So he is also a seasonal blogger and a YouTuber. He tries to teach people things in technology using his YouTube channel. He is also a traveler. He's traveled to not states but countries. Can you imagine that? I think it's what how many countries have you gone to so far?
9 countries so far.
9 countries, and he's waiting to get to 15, I suppose, for your international flower, right? Which is a very interesting concept, so I'll let you tell him all about it. Anyway, so Vilva, I think I'll leave the stage to you, and all the best. Take it away.
Sure, thank you. Let me share my screen. Just a minute. Okay.
Oh, I think Vilva probably disconnected by mistake, which is going to take a moment and have him back. While that happens, I just want to take this moment to remind all of you that the pandemic is high and mighty, and we need to take all the precautions that we can to keep ourselves and our family members and everybody else around us safe. So do remember to keep your masks on, use sanitizers, wash your hands frequently, maintain social distancing, and try to stay at your homes as much as possible. Of course, we understand that a few things need to be done and you need to go out for that, but try to keep yourselves and your family members and everyone around you safe, and hopefully we will get through this very, very quickly. We are still waiting for Vilva, so I think there has been a technical glitch. Sorry for the inconvenience, folks. Just give us a moment and we'll be right back with you. All right. Organizers, do we have an update? Well, I think something went wrong, and I think we'll just have to wait for Vilva to come back. Meanwhile, I think probably we can move on with our next speaker of the day, who is now apparently the first speaker of the day. So I think we should begin by introducing Manish Kumar, who is a recurring speaker at our meetups, and he's going to be talking about building micro front ends at scale. So Manish, are you here with us? Well, apparently, it turns out that Manish is also having some problems with this system. Shankadeep, are you still around?
Connected.
Oh, yes, Manish is here. Hi, Manish.
Yeah. Hey, Digvijay. I was on backstage, so I'm not sure. Maybe.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's all right, but we still cannot see you on video.
Yeah,
There
now
he
you
is.
should be able
Finally,
to.
yes. Let's get this show rolling. Finally. So, how are
Hey,
you doing today, Manish?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Fine Saturday afternoon for you?
Yeah, not much different from the other days, but dealing with this pandemic somehow.
Oh yeah, all of us are. It gets a little, it gets really taxing sometimes, doesn't it? But
Yeah.
hey, we're going to be there for each other, of course. That's how it is. Anyway, so as a short introduction, Manish is a recurring speaker here with us on our events, and he is an engineer at Geo, and he's the engineering manager, and he loves to do design. He's been working with Geo for over 6 years now, and he's built endless stuff with them and on his own. Uh, well, his philosophy is that he deeply cares about the user and developer experience, and he has been working his way around these things for a long time. And of course, he's also a future tech hobbyist. So he's recently been dipping his toes in AR and VR, and your Oculus 2 system makes me very, very jealous. Just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Manish, I leave the stage to you, and okay, let's get this show rolling.
Great. I'll quickly share my screen for everyone. Is my screen visible? I hope it is. Let me know if my screen is not visible. Yeah. So hey everyone, thank you for joining us. First and foremost, I hope everyone of you are safe, and I mean you and your family are safe. Please do take measures so that you are away from COVID. Be inside, mask up. Foremost announcement. Yeah. So yeah, a little bit about me. Digvijay already introduced. So yeah, I'm Manish Kumar. I'm working with Geo for quite some time now. Been doing design whole my life and been doing front-end engineering for quite a while also. Been working on web and mobile technologies, mostly React, Flutter. Been doing a lot of React, Angular also these days. Working on Geo's design system right now. It's pretty exciting. We are doing a lot of stuff around all of these platforms. Uh, uh, on my side, yeah, I deeply care about both user as well as developer experience equally, because I truly believe for us to build products that our users love, we'll have to uh, build tools and practices which are developer and designers love, right? So, and then like the which I mentioned, I'm also a future tech hobbyist. So I kind of you can find me playing with my Oculus, learning how to build apps and games for Oculus when I'm not working. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Uh, so what are we going to talk today about is micro front ends. So just to make us all of us on the same page. What are micro front ends? Micro front end is more of a blanket term for architectural pattern, where you kind of break out your monolith app into smaller pieces, mostly for scalability, efficiency of your teams, and mostly management purposes. So, I mean, in the example here, you can have a website or a kind of a web app where you have, let's say, a header, something of a sidebar, main content, and then these things are being plugged or powered with some sort of a style guide or design system component library of yours, and there can be separate data fetching logic also, right? And in a uh, in a large enough app or complex app, you might want to have separate teams working on this, separate teams owning different pieces of your application. So yeah. So what does micro frontend basically promise? It basically promises a couple these things, which is independent deployment, independent development. You as a team, a smaller team, can take your own architectural decisions. You don't have to be worried about the whole app's architecture decision. Like if you and your team are more comfortable with Angular for whatever reason, then you can go ahead and build with Angular. You can take choices of what state management, how you want to do navigation. All of those things can be your choices rather than being bounded by the main app, the umbrella app, right? So that's what it supports. And then the final one, which is quite important, I believe, which is owning the technology as well, right? This is, I mean, if like I mentioned, right, if you are comfortable with Angular or React or let's say Vue or any other new technology, maybe Svelte, anything that you're comfortable with, you can choose that for now, and that works for you. And this system will support, or this architectural pattern will support for that. But this system also acknowledges that the inevitability uh, of that technology may be dying down the line, right? So tomorrow, what happens if React is not there? If Angular is not used by anyone anymore, it gets deprecated. Google comes up with a different framework. So what do? Do you go with your legacy app and start converting from scratch? So I mean, in different other technology patterns, it's not acknowledged that much. It's basically somehow kind of forgetting that this is there. But with micro frontends, it's right up front, and it promises that if you are adopting a micro frontend architecture, you have the ability of switching out any of the technology that you might be using. So that's cool, I think. So just to outline my thoughts, right? It's mostly a scalability problem, mostly a team scalability problem rather than a technology problem that is being solved by micro frontends. It's not like something can be done in React or something can be done cannot be done in, let's say, Angular or Vue, right? It's not a technology problem. It's mostly a team scalability problem. So just a bottom line that this might be more beneficial for larger distributed teams who want to own their own experience of, let's say, a particular thing in your app, like let's say search, particularly if you want to have a separate search team who takes care of end-to-end search problem for you from front end to back end. That's when you might want to look into a micro front end. So yeah, it's not that hammer, or it's not one size fits all solution. So don't take it that way. But what's the actual problem? Let's look at the actual problem with the today's setup. Why can't we distribute, let's say, if you're working in React or Angular or Vue, why can't we ask multiple teams to work together on one particular web app, right? So there are these general challenges of how do you share your code between multiple teams? Like if they're dependent on you to build, let's say, a button or let's say a particular feature, then the teams are not independent, right? They cannot individually or independently deploy their stuff. They are dependent on you to first build, and then they will be able to deploy their stuff in production, right? So code sharing has been traditionally been really hard, right? We have come up with multiple solutions, from creating libraries using npm. I mean, there are multiple things that you can do, but still code sharing is still hard. Other one is obviously the team scalability that I was talking about. And then consistency at scale. If you have multiple teams working on a particular large website, you might have seen examples of this out for a particularly large organization, even for Google, Apple, you might see that it's not really consistent throughout the website. And I mean, it is only because there are multiple teams working on different parts of the website, different experiences of the website. So consistency at scale becomes a larger challenge. And again, this goes back to the same concern of code sharing, right? So how do you share code? So yeah, and obviously this also affects your developer velocity, because if there are multiple teams interdependent on each other, how do you make sure that everyone is up to date using the exact same version that you're using? So a lot goes around developer velocity as well. And then obviously there's vendor code sharing. So if you and your team are using React 17 because some shiny stuff, but some other team is still on React 16 and they're not even using hooks, let's say, then if you merge both of them, if you stitch at the final place, then there will be problems, right? So how do you share vendor code like React or Angular or Vue in the same stitched app or a shell app, right? And then obviously version conflicts. So how do you avoid these kind of versioning conflicts when you have, like, if you have divided your website into 50 separate micro frontends, you'd not want all of them to be always on latest version or the version that you are using, right? Because of multiple reasons, every team might be on a different version of React, and I mean, you might have to find a solution around that. So that's another general challenge around this, right? So what are the erstwhile solution around this? I'd not say really solution. These are basically workarounds of creating or breaking a big monolith app into smaller chunks. So you definitely need stitching a base or some sort of a shell app where you bring the whole experience together, where let's say your search experience, your product experience, your help experience, login experience, all of that comes together as a single app for your user. So you still need to do extra work to manually stitch all of this. And there's a lot of manual work. And whenever there's manual work, there are chances that things might go wrong in production, right? And then obviously there's manual patching that although you build separately, but at the build time or at the compile time, you kind of patch different modules together and try to make it as a single app. Again, affects the developer experience by a lot. Uh, Third is frame-based composition. This is also quite popular in trying to achieve micro frontends, where you kind of divide all these separate boxes in your web app as iframes and then load separately different builds at runtime, right? But again, with that approach, there are problems. We'll discuss those problems separately. You might have also seen some examples of complete redirection. So you might be on a website, and if you need help, or let's say you need payments, you basically get completely redirected to a different website, right? It's a complete page refresh. It's not really a good user experience, right? So that's another way of achieving this, though, that two teams can kind of independently deploy, independently develop. And then there are current solutions from Webpack also, which is using DLL plugin, native ESM, externals. Externals is basically library. Native ESM and DLL plugin are some sort of promising, but it still doesn't solve all the problems that we're talking about. And yeah, what are the problems with these workarounds? The issues which you might have already noticed, this basically asks for bad user experience, right? There are situations where if you are having multiple iframes, you will see things loading at different times because of latency between those. You will not have smooth transitions because something is loading separately, something is loading at different place. And if you have complete page refreshes, that's definitely a no-no, right? I mean, it will obviously make it slow as well. Then there's a lot of manual orchestration for your shell app. So not really a good developer experience in this case as well. And then if you're doing any of these, the things that I talked about, there's a vendor code duplication, right? Like even if you go from one page to another page and there's a complete page refresh and you might have developed separately, the React gets downloaded again, the whole parsing gets done again. Everything is basically duplicated, not just the code. I mean, bundle size anyhow increases, but still, I mean, the only thing that you want to share is some logic between these two. And anyhow, you are using React or other dependencies, like let's say if you're using some sort of a state management, some sort of a navigation React router. So you can share all of those. There's no need for each page to download them separately, right? And then obviously dependency version conflict would be there. This will be really slow at development in any of the things that you do. And you'll unnecessarily induce bugs which are not, which you'd not even anticipate. And then, like I mentioned, you might have noticed this in large organizations' websites, government websites, that things are not consistent, right? And I mean, it baffles us that this seems to be a small website or small web app. Why is this not consistent? Because this is primarily because in large organizations, large corporates, you have multiple teams working on the same web app, but for different features, right? So that's what brings in the inconsistency. So yeah. What if I told you all of this can be solved with Webpack configuration? And if you're anything like me, you might want to run away right now. But hold on, I'd help you understand how this can be done in a slightly less painful way. I mean, I'm not complaining about Webpack as much, but I've found it difficult to deal with to understand the whole Webpack configuration. React CLI kind of abstracts all the complexity of Webpack configuration away from you. But once you understand it's not that complex. So let's look at it. How can we solve for all the issues that we just talked about with Webpack configuration? So there's shiny new feature in Webpack 5, which has recently been launched, which is called module federation. Module federation enables you to have remote modules, exactly like local modules, with something called containers. We'll see what containers are in detail slightly along. So local modules are like normal modules, like which are part of your current build. So at the build time, Webpack knows that if you're referring to a button component, where is the button component? It builds a dependency tree and sees and does a lot of optimization also around that, right? If you have unused imports, it basically throws them out, creates a bundle which is optimized and efficient for you, right? But remote modules, Webpack really cannot do that with remote modules because it needs to know all of its dependencies, even for lazy loaded modules at the compile time, so that it can build the whole dependency graph. But with module federation, you can have remote modules that are not part of the current build and loaded from a so-called container at the runtime. We'll look at what container is, right? But how does it work? Uh, there are three small steps for any of your app which is being bundled with Webpack right now. And if it is using Webpack 5, you have to do three steps. One is you have to use something called module federated plugin in your Webpack configuration, which is on the left side. You can see module federated plugin. And then you have to define a remote endpoint, right? So I've defined here app2, at which is at this location, which is localhost 3002 with a remote entry.js, right? So this is the location of my remote app. And you can see in the remote app on the right side, I've defined that this is the name app2, that's the scope of it. And this is exposing something, right, which is a button, and it can expose anything basically. So it is exposing a button. So as soon as the remote app or this micro frontend goes live, this button is exposed, and anyone like app1 on the left hand side can consume it by just pointing to it through remotes, the way it is defined here, right? So how do you use it? As simple as an import statement with slightly separate pattern. And since these are async, you might want to load them lazily and maybe wrap it inside a suspense and with a fallback of whatever you want. So you basically have a React lazy with the import of app2/button, and then inside React suspense, you have this remote button, right? And we'll see example of this, of how this is working. But what about, I mean, okay, this solves for sharing the code at runtime. If something is live on different server, I can directly use that particular component from that particular server right in my application. This sounds too good to be true. But what happens when, let's say, I want to share uh, both the dependency of vendor code, right? Both the apps having same React, so I want to share React, or maybe I want to share React DOM. I want to share React router, right? So how do I do that with federated modules? It's again as easy as just adding a shared. This is slightly complex, not complex, advanced API of how you use shared. Ideally, you just maybe put shared with the array of strings saying React DOM, and you're done. And it will basically share React and React DOM between both of them. And you have to define this shared in both the shell app as well as the host app as well as the remote app. But in the advanced API, as I've shown here, you can ideally pin something to a particular version. So if, let's say, for whatever reason, you are dependent on 2.24 with semantic versioning supporting up to the patch version, you can actually do that also. So you can define a range of what moment is supported. And if you go into the advanced API, there are basically all the combinations that you can think of how you'd want to share between both the host as well as whatever is your remote. So yeah, sharing is as simple as that. You don't have to worry about any complex manual patching or removing things at build time. Sorry. Before we go into the demo, I'd want to talk slightly more in detail of how this works. So in the example scenario here, let's say this is your application where you have a home page, and then you have a drop down which has an arrow icon, and you also have a login model which is having a button, right? So if you see the tree chart here, homepage is having dropdown, which is dependent on arrow icon, and dropdown is obviously dependent on React. On the other side, login model is dependent on React, and login model is also dependent on a button because it needs a button for clicking, right? But look on the top right side where I've defined what is team A, team B. So assume that things were created or somehow structured in an organization like this for you to, for different teams to take care of different components. So team B is basically only worried about its own components. It only worries about button, dropdown, and arrow icon, which is dependent on React. So they don't really have to care about how login model would behave or how homepage would be, right? They just go and build button, they build dropdown, they build arrow icon, which is only dependent on React. All they have to do is expose button and dropdown, and they have to share React. They say that my React version has to be shared, my button is exposed, and my dropdown is exposed. And as soon as they make that live, what will happen is there will be a container which will be created for this dropdown. You can see there are multiple entries in the container for button separately, for dropdown separately, and React separately. And all of this can be referenced from a remote. Slightly deeper in this, how this works. So the external container is what Webpack will point to at runtime, which will have async dependencies on any of the components that you're creating. And at runtime, it will all be passed and would try to resolve at the runtime. So that's the key part here. It's all done at the runtime. You don't really have a compile time dependency on this. So yeah, a lot of talk. So let's go into demo of it, of how this actually works. I'll quickly try to exit from here. Yeah. And let's go to my, yeah, example. So if you see, I hope my VS Code is visible. Yeah, I'm sharing my entire screen. So if you see, there are multiple apps here. App 1 is basically my host app. It doesn't have much. If you see, this is just a shell app. I'll just run this. Okay, this is running. So this is my shell app, which is app 1. And then I have a remote app, which I am wanting it to be a micro frontend, which is app 2, which whose developers have created app 2 button, right? So I want to share this button from remote app into this particular app, which is 3000, which is running on 3001, which is a shell app, right? So how ideally I would do this is, if I'll show you the app 2 also, so it's slightly clearer, and increase the font size if it's not visible. So yeah. In the app 2, if you see, there's nothing. There's a button which is with certain style, right? So there's some button style, and there's this button, and this is exported. So if I need this, I would most probably have to create this as an npm package, install this inside my package.json so that I can access it, right? A lot of friction plus a lot of delay, right? I mean, users will have to keep on updating whatever is latest on the npm. You will also need a different deployment as soon as the npm package gets updated. But as I mentioned, I just have to go in Webpack configuration. I have to expose my button, which is pointing to my button. I say /button, which is pointing to my src button. I save this. I go into, and in the other one, I have already done the configuration of this, where I say my remotes are my app 2, which is running on 3002. So I'll just go in my app. I will import my app 2 from, I'll import my button from app2/button, and then just run it with a remote suspense fallback, right? And if I do this, I have saved this. If I come back, you see app2 button inside my app 1. So what is happening if I go in my network tab and reload this again? Sorry, network tab. Yeah. And if I just look at the JS, so you might see there's something called remote entry.js, which is around 27 KB unzipped, but this is zipped would be around 3 KB or something, which is very minimal. It doesn't contain any code. This is mostly an interface of trying to understand what this remote provides. So that's what you get, you are downloading. Another thing you can see is there's something called src button.js, right? Which is only 2.21 KB. And this is getting live streamed from the other one. So if I stop 3002, it will fall back to loading button and it will not load anything. And I'll quickly update, let's say, button here. So let's say I change the color of this. And if I update this, obviously I'm expecting my button 2 to update, right? But what happens here? If I do this, if I refresh, I immediately get that. It downloads this again. This is again 2.21 KB, and I immediately get that. I don't have to deploy this on NPM and get this back. So this is a very simple setup that I'm showing you, where there's a host app which is sharing from a remote app, which is basically pointing to a remote app and getting this. You can extrapolate this example to understand. I was kind of building that for you, but I don't think I have enough time to show that. That you can basically import this from a design system, this button, and that design system is basically running off from, let's say, a storybook. So you can basically import all your components directly from where your, let's say, design system team is building it. They don't really need to deploy it separately, make a npm, and you don't have to worry about the versioning of it either. But what happens when you actually need a versioning of this? What happens that you're not ready yet to consume whatever has been updated in the app 2, right? There might be app 2 might have introduced a dependency which you're not using or you have not updated to. In that case, also there's provision where you can do version management inside federated plugin, because the way this works is it creates those containers, right? Those external containers, and you can basically have different versions of the containers deployed that you can access. So yeah, I think this should give you a brief idea given the time frame. I think I can only explain this much. Digvijay, do I have enough time to maybe go slightly deeper into this? Or I can maybe take certain questions later. But yeah, I mean, this should basically give you slight more idea. Digvijay, if you have slight more time, I'd like to explain the React version pieces. I'd maybe take 2 minutes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Cool. So what happens, like I mentioned, how do you do vendor version conflicts, right? So let's go in app 2. Yeah, I'm in app 2. If you see, my app 2 is dependent on React 16.14, but my app 1 is basically on 16.3, right? Which, if you remember, doesn't support hooks, right? So what happens when I have a new version of a button, which is, let's say, using use state, right? So I have this new version of a button which is using use state. I'd also style this so this looks slightly better. Yeah. So if I do this, what will happen is my app 2 is working, where if you see, if I press, my hook is updating and I'm able to do this. But as soon as I try to do it here, it still is working. So how am I able to get a React version which was supporting hooks into a host app which is not supporting hooks? It did not download React separately, right? If you see, I mean, you can see it here. I'll redeploy this. It did not separately download the React piece. So how did it achieve this? So in the container, it basically tries to resolve and make your, so right now, I mean, I'll just go in the, so what I've done here is I've said, although I'm sharing React, but I want the React to be singleton. I'm sharing React DOM, I want the React DOM to be singleton, right? So if this were false, like I cannot really share the React version between these two, because let's say host is not yet ready for you to consume the latest version of React. What will happen is you'll not be anymore able to use this. Did I not save this? I did not, yeah. Okay, I'll have to rebuild this. So you'll not be able to, because in this case, you're explicitly asking Federation to download the React with 2 separate versions, because obviously there's a setup in which you cannot use them together. So if you do that, you will not be able to use this anymore. And if you go in console, you'll see that Webpack important module lazy is not really a function because that is not really available, right? And if you see this app, remote app is still working because this is still dependent on that. So, and you can go into the documentation of this. There's really advanced API for which versions or how you can strategize what gets shared and what you might have to duplicate if you want to provide a consistent experience to your user. So yeah, it takes a lot of pain away. And like I mentioned, if you extrapolate the use cases, uh, user is only downloading the things that they need. They are not downloading a React version separately or React router separately. So the bundle size goes down by a lot, as well as if you want to use it or scale it even more, you can have a design system team working separately. You can have experience teams working separately, and they can keep on deploying their stuff. And you can decide which one to consume based on whatever your requirement is. And consuming, as I mentioned, is as easy as a normal import in your app. You are basically just doing an import of that particular button instead of doing from, let's say, npm library. So yeah. I think that is all I have from my end on this. If you have any questions, I think you will have to post that on comments, and I'll be happy to answer that for you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Hi again, Manish. Hey, Manish, are you able to hear me?
Yes, again.
Hi again. So we were looking through the comments and we don't really have any questions from the viewers at the moment. But of course, if they do post something, of course, we're going to get back to you and get them answered for them. That works, yeah?
Yeah, that
Perfect,
works.
great. So of course, we are also looking forward to having you towards the end of the event as well. So stick around and I'll see you again very soon.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Bye.
All right. So the second speaker being the first speaker of the day, that was Manish, and he was talking about how you can make your developer life easier using some of the tools that have recently come out. Moving on, Vilva has joined us back. So I think it's time we bring him on the screen again. There he is. Hey again.
Yeah.
So what exactly went wrong? You just bailed on us.
The Chrome suddenly shut down and it didn't open. Then I had to use another laptop now to come
Chrome. The Chronicles of Chrome.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope everything is looking good now.
Yep. This is good.
Brilliant. So I'm going to let you take the stage and all the best.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Good morning, guys, and or maybe good afternoon there. And today we'll be speaking about reusable animations in React and React Native. Already, Digvijay has given some introduction about me, and to add few things like, yeah, I work at Omeo and Berlin. I'm more interested in open source. I'm a creator of few libraries, plugins, VS Code extensions, and storybooks, add-ons stuff. A few of my favorite ones are Tailwind and SQL Tag. In every social platform, you can find me with the name Vilva Adiban. And like Digvijay said, I can maybe give some idea about my international flower thing. So what I'm doing is every new country I visit, I collect some sand from the country, and I'm collecting the sand. When I reach a benchmark of 15 countries, I'll be planting a flower plant with all the sand together, of course with some manuals, and the flower which comes will be an international flower because it's from different soils. So that's what he was meaning when he was giving an introduction about me. Cool. With further no delays, let's get into today's topic. Okay, React Native. Why people use React Native? The major reason people started using React Native was code reusability. Instead of building a same app in iOS and in Android and having two teams maintaining things, that too mainly for a small startup or like early stage startup, it's really going to be hard. Whereas React Native gives us a flexibility of writing one code and then using it in both the platforms, both React, both iOS as well as Android. And one more benefit of using React Native is a React developer who works on web can be quickly productive with React Native. He don't need a lot of trainings. He just have to know some basics, maybe read through the docs quickly once, and then he is already able to create production grade applications in React Native. These are the main reasons people use React Native, and this is why it got famous. So but there is one small problem here. So though we use React Native and it is very similar to React, what happens here is even today most code we write is different for web and different for the native apps, that is the React Native apps. So though it looks like same, it's kind of different because we maintain two different code base. One works for a website and other works for mobile apps. Though it is React end of the day, and it's going to share a lot of common logics and common business goals and stuff. This is something which can be solved using the current ecosystem, and there are few companies which are solving it, but majorly people keep it separate. So let's get into the like now we know why we need React Native, and we know how they are being used right now and how it's not it doesn't coexist with React, though it has the capacity to. And let's get into the crux of the topic, that is animations in React Native. So how animation happens in React Native? For instance, we write code in JavaScript, and React Native compiles this code into native counterparts. That is, it either converts it into iOS or converts it into Android. And when we write animations, say we write a JavaScript animation, again it is written on the JavaScript side within React Native. How does it get converted into the native animations? Because end of the day, everything that works in a mobile app will be or should be native. So that's what we are trying to look into it. So these animations written in JavaScript, they get executed, and during every request animation frame, this particular animation details is being pushed to the native side. Like the JavaScript thread, it waits for all the or for every React request animation frame execution, it waits for the change. Maybe you are changing the opacity, or you are changing the size, you are zooming in. You can do anything on the objects, but based on your action, it collects all the changes which is happening to the particular element on the JavaScript side and pushes these changes to the native side, that is to iOS or Android. This iOS or Android code consumes the changes and implements it on the native side. That's how we see the animations once everything is done, all this process is done. This has some problems. There can be generally people complain the animations are pain in React Native. To some extent, I had agree, because implementing is not very easy. Like in CSS, you write a keyframe and then already it is animating in the web. So it's not very straightforward in React Native, and also this latest versions are a bit better, but the older versions are very awful in React Native because JS is single threaded, and there is only one bridge connecting JavaScript to the native. So when the bridge is already full, say it is doing some other activities, when it's doing animations also, it can do some other heavy activities. And when it does the other heavy activities, there will be a fight between animations and the heavy activity to go in, and the animations have to wait. And the overall experience for the user looks laggy, like the animation looks laggy. Our end goal of using animations is just to make sure the user feels better and the user experience is good. But this particular lag destroys the whole motive of having an animation itself. Sorry. So that is what is happening. That those are the existing problems in React Native animation. So you should be very clever, and you should know when to use what, and when to update the React state, and when to update the DOM or the native things directly. We also have some solutions for it, like we can use native drivers. So JavaScript once creates collects the details for animation. It hands over the execution of animation to the native side, and it relaxes. So even if there is a huge load on the bridge connecting React Native to native, it's not going to hang or lag, because currently the animations are handled by the native counterpart of the application. But we have a problem in it. The problem there is JavaScript loses complete control of the animation once we start using native driver. So everything comes with pros and cons. That's with how animations work with React Native. So we also discussed some problems of it. One more problem, the common problem which we discussed already is most of the companies or most of the products have a very resembling or very similar approach to mobile web as well as mobile app. But they had to maintain two different code base, because mobile app is in React Native, mobile web is in React. And animations again, if the application is a bit animation heavy, then there is no way the code could be reused between both the platforms. The main reason stays like the APIs, which the underlying APIs which work on animations are completely different. We can just write a CSS class and animate it for the web, whereas we need to use external libraries, or we used to use the animated components, animated API of React Native to animate. So it's both two different worlds, and reusing it is bit complicated, or it's bit hard until we have some solution for it. And the solution is nothing but React Spring. Yeah, we also have some other solutions of reusing things. Yeah, if you're creative and if you're clever, you can find even more things in future. But the major solution we are going to see about is React Spring. What this React Spring library does is, it's just an animation library. So as per the books, React Spring is a Spring physics based animation library. It's not our regular animations where we define some time and we define some curves. Like, it doesn't go as a traditional animation we create. But React Spring works more like a real-time use case. It can end animations in the middle, start new ones. So it gives you so much control over the animations, and it also gives you so much comfort and smoothness in using the animations. This library majorly works for web, and it was initially created for web, but later they created modules for other platforms as well. It's a completely cross-functional animation library. So that means React Spring works both for web as well as they have a module which works for React Native. So we will be seeing how to leverage this module of React and React Spring and React Spring Native for our benefits, and just write single code for reusing animations. So what the major benefit of React Native was, write one code and deploy it for two platforms. But with all the things we are going to do right now, we are going to achieve something like write one code, deploy it for three platforms. That is your web, your iOS, and your Android platforms. Cool. We have seen so much of talking already. Let's go and check out some code. Let's actually do some coding. Let's live code. Okay. So if you see here, I have some setup done already. What the setup is, it's very simple setup. I just initiated an application with Expo, and I initiated an application with Create React App. I moved the public folder of Create React App here, and I added the scripts and dependencies from Create React App into the Expo library, like Expo project. That's what I have done. And the major nuances we are going to work on, or we are going to rely on, is that I guess my screen is okay. If it needs some zoom in, zoom out, just let me know in comments. So what I was coming to tell is, the major factor we are going to rely upon is when you run the same piece of code in native or in React, React always looks for a file with .js extension, but React Native gives us a leverage. If there is no file with .native.js extension, it takes the file with JS extension. But when there is a file with .native.js extension, it always prefers that file over .js file. So when we create same component with two different names, that is app.js, app.native.js, app.js will be used by my web platform, whereas app.native.js will be used by my React Native platform. If you see here, there is no much difference between both this code base. I just have a small div with a margin just to make sure it doesn't stick over to the top. And I have a p tag which has React Spring animation. And same here, I have a view within which I have a text which tells React Spring animation. Nothing major or nothing special about it. But here, though we have both the code base within the same folder or same code base, we are really not reusing it across platforms. So what we will do right now, we will leverage this. If you see this, both the components are almost same. Like it has everything same except the fact that it is using div and p uh, for React and view and text for React Native. So what we could potentially do, we could leverage this fact of app.js and app.native.js is used by React and React Native respectively. And then we can create two components. One, I'll create a box component. So what it will have, it will just import box from box, which I'll be creating, and export default box. And I'll be creating two files, box.js and box.native.js. In native, I'll import from React Native. I'll import view from React Native and export it. And in JavaScript or in the web version of the file, I'll just export div. Similarly, I'll create one for my p tag as well. So I'll rename this to text and export p here. And I'll rename this to text.native and export text here. And in index, okay, it changed automatically. I don't have to necessarily change it, but still I'm doing it because I care about code quality. Cool. So right now I created a box component and a text component, and this box component will give me a div for web and view for React Native, and text component will give me a p tag for web and text for React Native. Now everything is being set already. I'll just close this files. Yeah. Now you can see the magic. Since everything is same, I don't have to have two versions of my app component now. I can go ahead, delete my app.native. Of course, my app will crash, but will come back again. And instead of div, I will use box. Box copy. And instead of p, I will use text. Now I have written only one code base, that is my app.js. It works for my web, you can already see it. And then I'm refreshing here. You can also see it in my React Native application. So one code works both on React and React Native. Okay, cool. That's cool. Now components are working. But what about animations? Because React Spring also has two libraries. One is React Spring, which is for web, and other is React Spring / native, which is for React Native. So we can use the same logic and leverage the concept of app.js and app.native.js for React Spring as well, and create our own animated our own functions of React Spring. So what I'll do, I'll create something called animated, within which I'll create the same type of things. Index.js. For now, I'll not add anything to index.js. Next, I'll create animated.js and animated.native.js. In animated.js, what I will do, I'll export things from React Spring. So for my web, things comes from React Spring. Whereas, and the things I'll be exporting is, the things I want to export are use Spring. You have so many things, you can export whatever you want to use. Sometimes you can even use export star, but I need only two things for this demo purpose. So I'm exporting use Spring function and animated thing from React Spring. And in animated.native, I'll be exporting the same things, but instead of React Spring, I'll export it from React Spring native. So how this is going to help me? When I import use Spring and animated from this component or from this folder, for my web, I will get it from the web module, and for my React Native, I'll get it from my React Native module. Using this, we can write animation only once, but it will work both in web as well as in React Native. So any changes you have to do in future, you just have to do it only once, and it is going to reflect in all the platforms. We'll see how to do it. Before doing it, we'll just import from animator. We'll import use Spring and animator and export it. So we can actually export it directly. Cool. Now we are done with our animated component. Let's go and implement animations actually. So what I'll do right now, instead of importing the use Spring and animated from React Spring, I'll import it from our animated component. So from here, I'll import use Spring and animate. And right now, I'm just going to follow. After this, there is no special setup. It's just minimal animations written using React Spring. So first, I'll create something called, I'll just animate the text because that's the only thing I have. So I'll create something called animated text, which is nothing but wrapped text component. I wrap my text component with the animated function, and I will replace text with animated text. So now we made sure that this text component is possibly it can be animated using React Spring. This step tells React Spring that this is a component you have a control of and you can animate it. And now the next step for us to do is create animation itself. For that, we will use Spring. And within Spring is more similar to our keyframe animations. You can pass many factors. Right now, I'll be using the minimal requirement, which is like from and to. So inside, I'll pass an object which will have to, and maybe in to I will first I'll go for from. From maybe I'll keep my font size as 10 to start with, and margin as 0. And into I will increase my font size to 50 and maybe margin as 100, which is my current value. And maybe I'll just make this as margin top 50 so you can see the animations, but the margin is going to get applied here. Okay, now what we have done, we have made our component to be eligible for animation. We have created our animation. Next thing is to pass this as style prop. Style equal to just structure styles. You see that maybe it's lagging in video recording, but if you see on refresh, it is animating for me web. And let's go for our React Native and refresh. You saw that it is animating for React Native as well. But we wrote animation only once. Now say if I don't want my margin to increase, I just want my font size to increase, I'll just remove it only once. And if you see, only my font size is increasing. My margin is not increasing. Same here. You can see only my font size getting increased. This way, we can reuse animations across web, Android, and iOS. Cool. So that's what a small technique. This is a very simple thing to use and to build and to maintain, but it can result in magic when it comes to bigger applications or maintaining, scaling your products. So this is the thing I wanted to share with the world, and with this, I'm done. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Hi again, Vilva.
Hey, hi, CJ.
Thank you so much for that amazing talk. We have a few questions for you. Uh, Aditya asks from the comments: is React Spring as good as REA2 with JSI, Turbo Module, and zero bridge traffic?
I can't comment on that because REA2 is a bit better in terms of performance, but React Spring is also equally good when implemented properly. So I'll say it's more of the implementation details, but REA2 is by default. It's like React is obviously better, but still you can write better code with JavaScript itself. So I'll compare that with these two things.
Right. And another question from Wiser Everyday ask: with React Native animations, is it best to learn RN animations, or I can jump directly into learning reanimated too?
I'll say if you're a total beginner, learn the basics, like learn the animated animated API of React Native, and then maybe you can start using reanimated. But directly jumping in, because when you learn the animated versions, you can understand a few things even better when you use other libraries. So that will be my solution.
Right. Well, I hope that answers your question, Aditya and Wiser Everyday. So, Vilva, that's all the questions we have for you at the moment. Thank you so much for talking to our viewers today. We'll love to see you again towards the end of the show. So, stay tuned and we'll see you again very, very soon.
Sure. Thank you for having me, Digvijay. It was good talking to you.
Thank you. Same. Thank you, Vilva.
Yeah. See.
All right. So that was Vilva, and he was talking about animations in React Native. Before we move on to our next speaker, just wanted to give you a quick reminder that remember to tweet about this event. Remember to tell everybody what we're doing here. Tweet with the hashtag RNBlr on Twitter, and tag us at the rate RNBlr. And to remember to tweet, it's free publicity. Anyway, so moving on with our event, I would like to have Bhargav join us on this event. He's today going to be talking about type-safe web development in React. He's going to give an overview about it. So let's have Bhargav with us. Hey there.
Hey Digvijay, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Bhargav?
I'm doing well, thank you.
It's good to see you again. I remember the last
Yeah.
time you were here on one of our events. You did not. It was you minus the beard.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it was that long ago. Yeah.
Also, the pandemic. I don't care about my
Also the
bird anymore.
pandemic. Yeah, well, that's true. Anyway, I hope
Mhm.
you and your family are keeping safe. Everything is good so far.
Under control. So
Under
far.
control. Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. So, as a quick introduction to Bhargav, he is a senior front end engineer at Contra, and he's been previously working at TSM and Blitz.gg. Uh, Alongside being a developer, he's also a teacher and a mentor at Code Mentor, and he has made some big contributions to Node.js and styled components. So that's a big thing. I think about the rest, I'll let Bhargav tell you all about himself on his own. So, Bhargav, I'd let you speak to our viewers and take it away.
Yep. Thank you for the introduction, Digvijay. So, yeah, I hope my screen is visible now. All right. So, hey everyone. So today I'm going to talk about type safety in developer experience, mainly in React. So first of all, I'm Bhargav. I'm a full stack dev, and like Digvijay already told you, I do a bit of open source. I teach a bit, and I am Bhargav5 on GitHub and Code with Bhargav on Twitter and YouTube. So make sure you follow me there if you like my content. So with that, let's get started. So type safety in JavaScript it's a very new thing, fairly you could say. So back in I think 2018 or so, uh, if you came to your manager and said that let's do type safety in JavaScript, this would what your manager's reaction would look like, because JavaScript is not Java. I don't care about types. Let's just ship features and get it over with. But today this scene is a lot different now, and what has changed is that it's not just about TypeScript just fixing the build errors, uh, not just the build time stuff that is important these days. You have developer experience, which you would get from VS Code, autocomplete, IntelliSense, and so on. And there is actually some very interesting stuff happening in the GraphQL space that I will talk about towards the end of this talk. The talk is very short. I'm just going to give you a high level overview of how TypeScript is shaping up and type safety is overall shaping up the world today. So, um, the thing about TypeScript is that you don't have to start with 100% type safety on day one. You can start small. You can still write JavaScript and just put a boolean on type on in ts config saying that it's fine, I don't have many types, but let me just work on JavaScript for a while. And then over a period of time you can make sure that you are addressing the coverage and improving and adding more types as you go on. So TypeScript, if you're not aware, is just it's just like it adds some types to JavaScript. So JavaScript doesn't have anything inherent type wise. So you can create a variable as a string, but over a period of time, you can change it to a number. And with that, what happens is that if you unintentionally modify variables, you would run into issues. And TypeScript aims to solve that. And that is a big player in type safety today uh, in the JavaScript ecosystem. And then it's also very good at inferred types. So, for example, you don't have to write uh, where number equals 1 and say that number is a number. It can tell. So these things also make it very easy when you're getting started with type safety in JavaScript. And you can disable stuff you don't care about. So there are many errors and warnings. For example, when you don't care about some data type, you can just say that this data type is any. It's any or unknown or whatever. You can use data types which are ambiguous, and that's fine for a period of time. It'll just help you make sure that you're starting off nice and easy and adding more stuff onto your project as time goes on. But like I said, it doesn't stop with just TypeScript. Today there is rapid progress because, like I said, the overall ecosystem is moving towards type safety because of the advantages it gives you. So if you have type safety enough in your project, then it's like your entire project is small pieces of a puzzle, and at build time they all fall into place. It can be a GraphQL, it can be your styling library, in fact, like style components. It can be your React components which have props and prop types, and it can be all your other JavaScript which are hooks and utils which can be typed heavily in TypeScript. And so now at this point, TypeScript is like this. The entire ecosystem. In fact, uh, a tool that I love very much is Relay, and Relay is insane with TypeScript and how type safe it is and how it makes our job easier. And I'll talk about it towards the end. So with that, I just want to show you. Like I said, the talk is very short. I just want to show you how you can build a dropdown if you don't know you don't know much about a package you install. So Rooks is a package that I maintain, and if you're getting started with Rooks and you don't know how it works, but if it has TypeScript, it makes your job slightly easy. So what I have is I have an app.js here where I'm just going to try to build a dropdown. I have something here, it doesn't do anything, but I want to use the hooks library that Rooks is, which has a tons of hooks that I know I've heard. I'm an end user now. I know that there are hooks, but I don't know what they are. So I can just look at Rooks and just look at all the declarations here, and I can go towards the end. So if the package maintainer was careful enough, then you would have all the declarations here, and you could look at each individual declaration and find out what kind of data is being returned from that hook. So now what I'll do is, because I know that this is a hooks library, I'll just go into app.js and try just using this. So the first thing is I want to just toggle this. So what I'll do is I'll just type in use, and I'll do control space, and that will just open up all the options it has in the project. So I'm just looking for something that I can use, and I'll probably look at use toggle, which is probably something that I want to use for toggling the behavior. So then when I click on braces, it again IntelliSense is helpful. It tells you what kind of data it is expecting. I can start off as false, and then I can look at return type as well. So when I click on this, it tells me that it returns an array of any type. So basically, this is just whatever state you have that is being returned, and you can just grab that over here. It also returns a function. I can grab that as well. I'll call this is open, and toggle is open. I'll just use this to just show this drop down if it is open, and otherwise hide it. And I want to just click on this trigger and toggle it. So types have already helped me to do things like opening and closing a drop down, even though it's a very simple thing. If you are not familiar with the library, you wouldn't be able to do this. Even I was not able to do this. I was the maintainer of hooks. There were like 60 hooks, and I don't know what the syntax for each hook looks like, what kind of various arguments I can expect. And because there are many hooks that I want to use, for example, I want to close a drop down when I click outside, and I don't know how it looks like. So I'll just let autocomplete tell me that it's expecting a handler, and there is a when here. So maybe I can use that. So I want to close the drop down when it is already open. If it's open, close. And what does this return? Let's take a look. It returns an array of a callback ref. Okay, maybe I'll use that. So let's do const ref, and this is probably the ref that I'm tracking the outside event for. So I'll just do ref equals ref. Now I'm going to open the dropdown. I click outside, it's going to close. So this is just to give you an idea of how, even if you're not familiar with libraries, but if the package maintainers, which can be you're building a nice library for everyone. If you just type it well, there's a good chance that your end users will have a good time developing good apps with it. Right. So the last thing that I want to touch upon is, I hope I'm still visible. Okay. So the last thing that I want to talk about is that at Contra and at some other projects that we are building, this is just something that I'm just going to talk about because I think it's very interesting how well the space is evolving. So there is Apollo, which is a big player in GraphQL, right? So you can use Apollo to generate the types in your front end. You can use them, but with Relay you get a touch further. It is actually uh, it is more stringent. It makes life difficult as a developer, but it also makes you uh, more aware of what is happening in your project. So it's like there is an extra compilation step. So when your backend team releases a new API on GraphQL, there's a new field in GraphQL. So Relay will help you generate those types for that new API that was shipped, and you can just simply fetch them by using Relay compile or something like that, and you can directly start using them in your front end. So it's automatically typed on day one. The moment your backend team ships that, your front end already has those types. And it also takes it a step further because it knows that inside the GraphQL system, all data is linked, and it will make sure that because all the types are known, it will only fetch them as they need, as your front end needs the data. So these are some benefits when you're using a type when you're inside a typed ecosystem. When everything is typed, the data is not just data. The data has a meaning to it. It has more metadata that you can use. So on that, I would like to end on one new exciting framework that I think everyone should try, and which is stitches.dev. It's insane. So unlike style components, it does not have the you cannot write CSS, but on the other hand, you get type safety here. So your CSS rules are now typed in some way. So for example, you can start building theme tokens, and these will be auto completed for you when you start building your component styles. And that makes things, again, some things are made difficult, but on the other hand, your production build is that much more safer to build, and it saves that much time with bugs. So yeah, I guess the gist of the the moral of the story is that type safety is not necessarily a bad thing, even though as developers we might have to end up write up more code, but it gives us a lot of things. On the other hand, it makes your life that much more easier. You don't ship bugs on the weekend. So thank you very much. Digvijay, I think I'm done. Yeah.
All right. Hi again, Bhargav.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. That was short and sweet, and I think it was pretty useful for everybody, all of our viewers. So at the moment, Bhargav, I don't see any questions from our viewers for you. So I think if any do come in, we can always tackle them towards the end of the show. And of course, we would love to have you back. So stick around, and I'll see you again soon enough.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So onwards to the final talk of this event. Before we get into it, just wanted to remind you that this event has been organized by GeekyAnts. GeekyAnts is a product studio that is trying to lead change and digitization through wonderful technological solutions that they build. So we would love to have a conversation with you. Do get to us if you want to chat, or if we can help you with anything on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find us at the rate GeekyAnts on Facebook, at the rate GeekyAnts on Twitter, and GeekyAnts Official on Instagram. And of course, GeekyAnts on LinkedIn. So if you want to have a conversation or you want to talk to us about anything, we would love to have a chat with you. So get in touch with us. Right. So moving on to the final talk of this event, we have with us Surya, and he's going to be talking about how you can write better JavaScript code using DeepSource. So let's have Surya here with us. There he is.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Surya. Very good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, my name is Shaurya.
Oh, it's pronounced Shaurya. Okay, I missed the H there, so
Yeah.
didn't know that. Thank you for correcting me. So Shaurya, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi.
As a short introduction to Shaurya, he is working with DeepSource, and he has been building some amazing static analysis tools. He has worked on as a master of Python and Go, and now is currently working with PHP and Scala, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Great. And I'm just curious. I'd like to know a little bit about the Thought Chimney. So if you could tell us a little
So
bit about that.
so I used to have this blog. I used to post often on that. So that was mostly about. So my friends used to call me a chimney. So I just thought maybe that would be
I can I
maybe
can
that would
I
be a
can
good name.
I can guess why.
Yeah. So that's why I named it the Thought Chimney, and then so mostly posting stuff, developer stuff.
Hmm. So do you still post? Because I haven't seen any recent posts. I mean, you
No,
should
no.
start it again.
Yeah, I'm planning to start it again.
You should. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to have a blog of your own. You can share so many ideas with people. I think it's a wonderful initiative, and you should continue this. Well, that's just my opinion. I'll leave the rest up to you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Thank you.
so Shaurya, I'll leave you with our viewers and take it away. All the best.
Sure. Thank you. I'll just share my screen. Yeah. So, hey, hi everyone. My name is Shaurya, and I've been working here at DeepSource for about I don't know, about 2 years now. So today I'll be talking about how to ship better code using JavaScript and of course using DeepSource. So let's start. So a bit about me, like Digvijay already said. So I've been building tools for programmers at DeepSource. So we are currently into building static analysis tools. We'll get into what static analysis tools are, and I mostly write Python and Go, and I've been writing some PHP. Let us not just PHP programmers anymore. And I'm also learning Scala. So yeah, so that's a bit about me, and let us start with how to have a good life in general. So as programmers, so I think the most important thing that we tend to miss is if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. So that's essentially Murphy's law. So we should essentially verify everything that we think might go wrong. So that includes writing tests, that includes reviewing code properly, that includes not shipping on Fridays, for example. So that, and then of course if there are things that can be automated, for example, if you are reviewing somebody's code and you know that some issues should always be checked for example, using double equal to's versus triple equal to's, those should always be checked for. A manual reviewer might miss them, but it is possible that it is possible to detect them using automated code review tools, right? So one is that, and another is of course automated tests. So you can't always manually test things. So that, and like Bhargav already said, in fact I added this point right now, so know your types. So so basically when you know what to anticipate, the types and stuff, so that essentially type annotating your code, that is going to take you a long way towards stability and in the end a good life. So now assuming that you don't ship your code on Fridays, because then you're not in a hurry to finish it off and then go party. So it is always a good idea to have somebody else look at your code as well. So relying on other humans. So like I said, we can automate most of the stuff, but we can't, at least right now, automate the logical and design reviews. There is no tool right now that can tell you, hey, this particular design pattern does not look good. Maybe do it like that, or that this particular logic does not look good. So that's something that you'll have to rely on humans to do that. And then, of course, ensuring about 100% test coverage. I understand it is not very easy to ensure 100% test coverage. There are stuff. I mean, you can mock stuff, but if you are coming from if you are trying to add tests to an existing code base, then it is hard to reach 100%. But just to reach 100%, don't try not to do stuff like expect the received and received. I mean, expect don't check the value to be equal to the value. I mean, the example here, expect received to equal received. So that will probably increase test coverage, but not, that won't be of any value. And then use static analysis tools to find and fix common bugs. Right. So, like I said, so some of the stuff can be detected automatically, and those should be detected automatically, and the rest of the stuff should be left to the manual reviewers, the human reviewers. Let us then talk about what exactly are static analysis tools, right? So if you look at it, if you look at a particular human being who is reviewing your code, in the end, they're I mean, you can't explicitly say so, but they are a kind of static analysis tool. You can't call a human a tool anymore, but uh, that's basically what they're doing. They're statically analyzing. So static basically means you're not going to run the code, but you're only going to read it, parse it, and understand what's happening, and then maybe say stuff like this might be wrong or this might be right, because focusing on might be, because some of the stuff, while pretty clear, you don't know. For example, if you are using double equal to versus triple equal to, you don't know if the programmer intentionally did that. So you don't know if how, but we can always say that, hey, this is not usually how it's done, but if you have a particular reason for it, go ahead and merge this code. So that's what a human being is going to say, and that's what static analysis tools do as well. So even if you think you have never used a static analysis tool, you probably have used it, especially in JavaScript. Not especially in JavaScript, in fact, in any programming language, if you have used some kind of compiler, if you have used some kind of linter. For example, if you have used ESLint with your project, then you have used static analysis tool. ESLint is a static analysis tool. Your compilers often do some kind of static analysis before creating before creating a binary, or before compiling it into bytecode, or whatever your language is. And in fact, even the JS minifiers, I think there's a library called Tensor, and all these other libraries. So they can't basically compile it into minify your JavaScript code without also statically analyzing it. So you have used static analysis tools, even if you think you have not. And of course, DeepSource is also a static analysis tool. So we get access to your code. We read your code through. If you have a GitHub account, you connect your GitHub account with DeepSource, and then DeepSource gets read access to your code, and of course, and it reads your code and tells you what could be an issue with your code. So this is sort of what a static analysis tool would try to read. So that the code on top, the function printfs, this is something that you write. But in order to statically analyze, I mean, one way would be to read it word by word, functio space, so you know that's the function. So essentially, you're tokenizing it. But all static analysis tools generally run on abstract syntax trees, which is what is generated at the bottom. So I've used ASTExplorer.net to generate this. So that is what static analysis tool is going to is going to read, because it is, of course, it is easier to do so, and there are often existing libraries that will convert your code. For example, your JavaScript code. JavaScript has a library to convert your JS code into an abstract syntax tree. And yeah, so there are, like I said, there are existing tools uh, that use static analysis. So ESLint is the most common one. So this is open source, and I think most projects are already using ESLint. There is a new tool that's called Roam. Uh, I'm not sure that everybody would be aware of it, but they tend to their aim is to combine all of the stuff that you use using different tools. For example, minifying, and even the work that ESLint does, and all of that, and even formatting like Prettier. So combine all of that into a single tool. The site is roam.tools. This is again open source. So that seems to be an interesting project. And of course, DeepSource, because I work at DeepSource. So right. So now now why use DeepSource? So other than the fact that I work at DeepSource and I work on these tools, there are a lot of other important reasons to use DeepSource. For example, focusing on fixing issues that are raised. But but the thing about ESLint is when you run ESLint in your CI, for example, so you get a lot of logs, and then you don't know what to do with those logs, right? So let's say you run ESLint for the first time on your code base, and then you see, say, 1,000 issues that were detected in your code, and you don't know what to do with your code, right? So you don't know which one to fix first. So that is where DeepSource helps. So we'll see how DeepSource helps fix helps in deciding which issues to fix first. And of course, if anybody has used ESLint, they would know that ESLint is extremely noisy if you don't configure it properly. Right? So so what we have seen in most open source projects that used to use ESLint and then moved on to DeepSource. So when they used ESLint, they usually only had a few rules enabled. For example, the most common rule is double equal to triple equal to. So so in their cases, they would only enable they would only enable this rule, and so ESLint would only detect that particular issue in their code. But and also enabled ESLint prettier so that they could find the formatting issues in their code. But that's not the case anymore with DeepSource. So all you have to do is in DeepSource, all you have to do is add 2 lines, and even that has a wizard, so you don't have to do anything at all. And fewer false positives. So in ESLint, you have to configure a lot in order to reduce false positives. For example, if you are using an existing library from node modules, for example, so ESLint is going to tell you that this particular module is not found. So why are you importing this? However, DeepSource fixes that issue. For that's just one example. And another thing is that at DeepSource, we take false positives very seriously. One, we try to reduce it as much as possible on the level of code. But if you even then, if you find some false positive in your code, so there's a very easy way to report false positives to us, and we get back to you as soon as possible, so that you don't have to see those false positives anymore. We'll fix that as soon as possible. And then we have so one more thing. So you don't do in ESLint, you don't actually see how much test coverage you have for, like I said. So you need to have as much test coverage as possible, right? So that's something that DeepSource tracks for you as well. uh, so that is these are some of the things. And then like I said, so you could have, say, 1,000 issues raised in your code all at once. And of course, ESLint also does a decent enough job, not exactly the best, but decent enough job at automatically fixing some of those issues. But DeepSource raises around 600 issues and fixes around 70 of them. So I guess the number is 76 or 77. So that that the issues that are raised in your code, you don't even have to worry about fixing them, because DeepSource will automatically fix it for you. And now there's like I also said, that there's a formatter called prettier. So most people run this, or there's prettier, there's standard. Some people even run ESLint on their code to format all these style issues. Basically, to make the code look good, so there are certain style guidelines that you can follow, like whether you're using these many line spaces. I think Python has 80 character length, used to have 80 character length. So and of course, and yes, JavaScript also has curly braces. So where to put the curly braces, whether to put a space after this, whether to break the lines between when you're defining objects, whether to break the lines, and whether to have a trailing comma or not have a trailing comma uh, in your JavaScript code. So these are the things that prettier, standard, all these tools fix themselves. But let's say you're running an open source project, and your open source project, there are so many people contributing. So if this project were an internal project, you could easily tell everyone that, hey, why don't you install this, why don't you configure this pre-commit hook that runs prettier before you push your code. But in case especially in case of open source projects, you can't you can suggest this, but it is unlikely that people are going to run that. So DeepSource does that automatically for you. So if you enable a transformer, so we call them transformers. If you enable a transformer, then DeepSource is automatically going to run that transformer on your code and even commit the transformed code. So you don't have to worry about anything at all. So essentially, you get to run all of the code. You get to enforce all of your guidelines as much as you want to. So I'll probably take some time to demo how DeepSource works. Yeah, I believe my screen is still visible. So I navigate to deepsource.io, log in, and sign in with GitHub. So we'll see how easy it is to configure analysis on DeepSource. So I'll just click on activate a new repo and demo JavaScript. So unlike existing tools, this is all you have to do. Now, of course, you don't want analysis to run on some certain files, right? So let's say you don't want it to run on this. So we'll add this. Sorry, .min, I guess that's the convention, .min.js. And then we'll do it for React code because this is a React meetup. Right? And of course, like I said, we also have transformers. So I'll also add a transformer here. Let's say we'll add prettier and commit to GitHub. Now this is all there is. Now an analysis has been created. So if you look here, an analysis is running on this. And once this completes, yeah, in 13 seconds. So there are about 89 issues that have been raised, and because we only enable React, so the repo itself had other packages as well. It has React, TypeScript, Vue, but we are only going to show it for React. So some of the code. So it also, of course, it also runs on other files, but it is not looking specifically for TypeScript specific issues, or it's not looking specifically for Vue specific issues. It is only going to look for React specific and general JavaScript issues. So now this is this is something that uh, I think this is something that Wilbur was also talking about. Font size. He was configuring font size in one of his in his animation demo. So now this font size is not actually allowed in style components. They don't actually allow hyphenated ones, so they have to be converted to camel case before that. But you don't know exactly why DeepSource raised this issue. So if me, for example, I don't know a lot of JavaScript, like you know from my introduction, right? So what I'll do is go to the description and see what exactly that means. So in JSX, all DOM properties should be camel case to be consistent with standard JS style. Yeah, it can be a possible source of error if you are used to writing plain HTML. So this is basically, so if you have class, you have class name and stuff. Right. So what I'll do is now there are 6 of these. If I open my editor and start fixing all of them, it is going to be a pain. Right. So I'll just click on autofix. Yeah, autofix all of them. So it takes a very little amount of time to actually do this. So and in fact, only 7 seconds to do that. And once you're done with these, so you can select or deselect if you think this was intentional somewhere. This class changes to class name. So if you want, you can remove this from the patch that will be generated. But I think this is the correct thing. So let us just create a pull request here. And here we have the pull request. so this is basically it. Now we also see that the transformer was run, right? So we also enabled prettier transformer. So after the transformation, we see format code with prettier. So there were some changes that prettier made. So single quotes became double quotes and all these things. So so this is what DeepSource is going to help you with a lot. So you don't have to worry about enforcing any of our guidelines anymore. Right? So only after all these checks pass, in fact, you can even configure this, that only after all these checks pass, you can you should sorry yeah, require which status checks to pass. So you can maybe say DeepSource transformers and DeepSource JavaScript to pass before this. And there's another thing called test coverage. So this is something that we track as well. Now, all that you need to do to track your test coverage is you install the DeepSource CLI. So this is basically your this is your code. So we have a repository called Ike. So pretty explanatory why. And so what we do is we let's say we run we run this. Right. So we install your DeepSource CLI. So you call this, and then all you do is whatever test coverage report that was generated from your tests. So yarn and yarn coverage, and then you basically just pass it on to DeepSource. So DeepSource report, and that's how you get all of this. So even in any particular pull request that you have, if you want to if you want your pull request to uh, yeah, if you want your pull request to not have to not pass your checks to not pass if there are no tests in the new lines. For example, if I enabled test coverage analyzer, so also to do that you need to have the test coverage analyzer enabled. So when we went to configure, I think I'll show it here. Right, so in your DeepSource.toml, you can easily you can configure this. So name equal to test coverage, enabled equal to true, and you're done. So this is basically all that you have to do in order to set up test coverage. So that was about the demo of DeepSource, and then now the question that comes. So what if I already use ESLint? What should I do after that? So I mean, so if you already use ESLint and are not convinced enough about why to use DeepSource, so like I already gave you some examples. So raising issues in your CI system and browsing through all the logs, it is going to be noisy. You don't know which issues to fix first. So usually what people end up doing is restricting the number of rules that are raised. So if you are only configuring it for style issues, if you're only configuring for formatting issues, then you are not exactly using ESLint in a better way. And so also we also add a lot of issues on our own that ESLint does not support at all. Of course, we have a superset of all the rules that ESLint has. So we support and autofix a lot more rules than ESLint does. And convenience would be a huge factor on why to use DeepSource. I mean, that is one of also one of the reasons. And of course, if you have already configured ESLint to do what you want to do, and you already have reduced all the issues in your code, so DeepSource already supports. If you have any existing ESLint configs, so ESLint RC, ESLint RC.js, in any kind of config, so DeepSource supports that. And even if you have all those formatter configs, for example, you have prettier RC. So if you configure your prettier RC to use single quotes instead of double quotes, then DeepSource is going to honor that and use that. So that is pretty much what it is. Yeah. Yeah. I'm done.
Hi again, Shaurya.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Right now, we don't have any questions from the viewers for you. So I think we're just going to stop it here. But if, of course, while we are getting on with the show. If there are any questions, we can always I can always get back to you with those, and we can get them answered.
Yes.
Wonderful. Great. So I think I just have you here because we are now at the end of this event, and to conclude this, I'd just like to have everybody who has been a part of this event to be on the screen with me. If anybody's around, so Manish, Vilva is here. Manish is here. Okay. Shankudeep, is he here? I don't. Oh, he's here too. I don't see Bhargav. I think maybe Bhargav has left us. Bhargav is left. Okay, so I guess it's just the five of us. So, Shankudeep, any closing notes? Any final words?
No, it was good. I got to learn a lot of new stuff. I'm excited to try out a couple of things that we saw. The React to React Native, like the common code, was something which excited me a lot. That's something I'm definitely going to try out. Also about DeepSource, I actually, when I saw the list of speakers, I went to DeepSource website to actually check what it is about. But yeah, now that I see it, I think it might be like worth a try. So I'll check it to see exactly how different it is. But yeah, I loved every talk. So yeah, it was a good thing.
Well, that is great. Thank you so much, Shankudeep. So, ladies and gents, we are here at the end of today's React and React Native remote meetup. On screen, you have all of our esteemed speakers who have taken out the time to talk to us, talk to all of you, in fact, today, and share some of their most experienced views on all things React. So thank you guys for taking out the time and being with us here today. I would also like to extend a thanks to all the viewers who have joined us and stuck with us for so long on YouTube. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday afternoon with us. A special shout out to everybody who's been making this event happen in the behind the curtains, Rishabh, Maheshwari, Shweta, everybody else who has been working tirelessly to make these meetups such successes, and of course the upcoming ones as well. So thank you guys for making that happen. Just a final note before we all leave, that it's very important for us to stay safe and take care of everyone around us, be it family, friends, or anybody. And to do that, it's very important to take care of yourself first. So be very, very aware of your mental health. Take very good care of yourself. Take breaks if you need to. Be sane for everybody else. I think that's the best way I can put it, because we need you to help everybody else, and we need to help each other, and we need to be in a state to do that. So take very good care of yourself. Everything else can wait. And on that note, once again, thank you all the speakers for joining us today. We have a small tradition where we always take a group picture. When we used to meet in person, we used to always take a group picture, but since we cannot do that right now, I think we can just make do with a quick screenshot. So on the count of 3, if everybody can just strike a pose, and we can take a very quick screenshot and keep this as a part of our memories. So 1, 2, 3, strike a pose. React. Got it. Once again, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you to all the viewers. Thank you, Shankadeep, for helping me host this event today. And well, I hope to see you guys once again. And of course, for everything React, React Native, and all other technologies, reach out to GeekyAnts. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, guys.